What is going on, everybody? Thank you so much for watching. Today we are checking out the Synvertek MGAT-1 G.E. This is a preamp and pedal. It's based on really iconic Marshalls from pick the 1987 X or the 2203 or the 1959 SLP. They're all in this box. It covers all of the gain ranges within those vintage era models, but also goes well beyond that into what I would consider kind of modified high gain. Wunan is obviously a Marshall aficionado. He loves those amps and he's put them in this pedal slash preamp. It's certainly a preamp. I'm going to be demoing it as a pedal. You know, at first glance, it looks a little daunting. There's 8 switches and 6 knobs, but it's not that daunting, especially with the switches. Once you get them set, it's pretty set and forget. Just looking at the knobs, it's a straight ahead classic tone stack. So you have volume, gain, presence, treble, mid, and bass. We'll get into what all those do in the demo. Now, as far as all the switches go, let's start at the top of the pedal. At the very top, you have a 3-way switch that allows you to choose the top end of the pedal. In the up position, it's going to be like a modern thing, so think JCM 800. In the down position, it's going to be more like a plexi, which was my favorite. So you're essentially choosing bright caps. And in the center, there's no bright cap. I'm not going to be demoing that. The pedal's based on Marshall, so I'm going to show you guys the 2 caps. So that's what's going on with that one. Right below that is your low end. It allows you to choose between essentially, you know, tight or kind of neutral. And then up is going to be full, so the most low end. Down is going to be medium, so a little bit more low. I will say that that switch is somewhat subtle. Once you get it where you want it, it's set and forget. To the left is a very important switch because I mentioned that this can be ran as a preamp or a pedal to the front end of an amp. It's called the Destiny switch, and it allows you to choose between the 3 types of inputs you're going to run this into. So if you're running it into an amp, it's going to allow you to choose between a dark and a bright amp. And I would say take that with a grain of salt, because if you have what might be considered a dark amp, but you dial it bright, then you might want to actually use the bright side. So I'll show you in the demo, but just pick what works, set and forget. If you put the switch in the center, that's for running direct into a DAW or running direct to power, which it does sound great. If you're going to run it direct to DAW, this obviously doesn't have amp or cab simulation, so you're going to need to use a plugin or maybe go the aux stomp route to run it that way. And as I mentioned, I'm going to be demoing this as a pedal straight to the front end of an amp. I think it sounded great. So that's what that switch does. Right below that is a very important switch. It's your mid switch. It allows you to choose kind of the mid range. And in this case, you can choose between 3 different mid ranges. So you can, in the up position, do like a 1987 X, the 50 watt mid range. In the center, you can do more of a 1959 mid range. And then down, which was my favorite, is a 2203 mid range. All 3 of them sound great. And that's called the Golden Era switch, but it's a mid switch. Really sounds good. We'll check that out in the demo. On the right side of the pedal, you have a 3-way switch. It's the gain structure switch. It is subtle, but it depends on how you have the pedal dialed. But essentially, it's the overall gain of the pedal. So in the center is medium, up is low, and down is high. That's also kind of set and forget, but I'll show you that in the demo. Right next to that is a switch that toggles right or left. That's allowing you to choose between 3 channels. There's a clean and then 2 OD channels, or, you know, to make it simpler, especially when you watch the demo, there's a green channel, yellow channel, red channel. That just allows you to toggle between those 3 channels. Check it out in the demo. And then between the mid and bass controls are 2 mini 3-way toggle switches. Those are both saturation switches, and they're definitely subtle, but they do make a difference. And I'll show you in the demo. It's more feel and harmonic saturation. And once again, it depends on where you have the gain set, but the top switch applies to the first OD channel, and the bottom switch applies to the second OD channel, or the red channel. We'll check that out. And then last but not least is your bypass switch, and then your ins and outs are on the side. Let's check this thing out. It is the Synvertek MGAT-1 G.E. All right, so here we go. Here's the guitar straight into the amp. And here is the MGAT-1. Okay, cool. I just ran through the 3 channels, so clean, and then that OD1 and OD2 channel. I had both of them in the lower saturation modes. I have the gain structure set at medium. I think what I'll do first is, so I don't have to sweep through the gain, on every single one. I think you guys got a pretty good idea that the gain can go from vintage to pretty much modern high gain. But while I'm just in the green channel, I'll go ahead and just sweep the gain. So I went ahead and just bumped through the channels just real quick so you could hear. Now, if you want more gain, like say, let's go to channel 2, the yellow channel. If you want more gain, you can reach for the gain structure, but you also have the saturation. Both of these can be a bit, I guess, subtle, but right now I'm in the medium gain. I like it in the medium gain. The higher gain seems to add just a little bit of lows, so you might want to, manipulate the bass control on this. But that's what that gain structure is doing. It works in obviously those two, on all 3 channels. I think I'm going to leave it in the center. While I'm on the yellow channel, let's check out the saturation switch. Right now it's on the right. That's in the center. So it is subtle, but that being said, if you have the gain up more, it becomes more apparent. So when I turn the gain up to the right, a little bit less, all the way to the left, a little bit more, and then the center is kind of neutral. I liked both of the saturation switches to the right. Like I said, they are a bit subtle, but you can. It's there. It's more of a just I want this to feel a certain way. And when it comes to these switches, I will say set and forget. I'll do the same thing in that highest gain, the OD2 or the third channel. So once again, subtle, it's almost a feel thing. There is some different kind of harmonic saturation. Once you're where you want to be, you're probably going to leave it there. So that's what's happening with the gain structure and the saturation. I'm going to go back to the green channel. I'm calling these green channel, but clean, and then the two drive channels, so that we can take a listen to the top end switch. Right now I have it in vintage top end, which is going to be more like a plexi. I really like that top end. If you want to go to the modern top end, it's going to be brighter with less low end, and that's going to be more like an 800. Now in this mode you can compensate, add low and back treble off. But for the most part, I liked it in the vintage setting. Now let's go to the low end switch. Right now I've got it in medium. It's subtle, but once again, once you have it where you want it, you'll probably leave it there. So right now, I have it in the medium. I'll switch it to tight, which is in the center. So full, you can hear right away. I like it in the medium. It is subtle, but it also depends on how much gain you're running. Once again, set it where you want it and forget it, but that's what that's doing. I like it in the medium setting. Over here on the left is a really important part. It's the density switch. Now what that's doing is allowing you to choose between 3 different types of inputs. So you're either going to input to the front end of an amplifier, and it could either be a dark or a bright amplifier. Now I'm going to say quote dark, quote bright. Pick whatever works for the amp you're playing, whether it's an AC30 or a Fender Deluxe or a Plexi, whatever you're plugged into, throw the switch. Don't just assume, because it might be an amp that would be assumed dark, but you're dialing it bright. So just throw the switch. In the center, that position is for running direct into your DAW or direct into a power amp like an effects return. Anything like that. It obviously doesn't have amp sim, so if you're going to run direct into your DAW, you're going to need amp simulation and speaker or IR emulation. But that's what that's for. For demo purposes, I'm just running direct into my amp, and right now I have it in the dark setting. If I throw it to the bright setting, it's just a slight difference in top end. I liked it. I left it in the dark setting for everything, and I thought it sounded great. And once again, set and forget. Right below that is the mid range switch. This is really important. I loved it in the 2203 mode. But it allows you to choose between 3 different mid ranges. So the 1987X, the 59 SLP, and the 2203, all kind of, you know, significant, very significant Marshall amps. So I'll just let you hear it. And I'm playing really simply. So right now we're in the 2203. Here's the center, which is the 1959. Brighter top, brighter mid. Here's the top, which is the 87X. 2203. 59. And then last is the 1987X, the 50 watt. I was kind of torn. I mean, that sounds great to me too. But overall, I really liked being in the 2203 setting. The mids just sat better in a track. Okay, we know what the volume and gain does. Let's listen to this, the rest of the tone stack. Let's start with treble. That's the sweep. I left it, you know, around 11 o'clock is where I dug it. Mids. Yeah, it's got just the right bark. And then, of course, lows. Or I should say bass. Bass. It can get really big. Okay, I was just messing around, just changing things up really quick. The one thing I didn't cover just yet is the presence, which is the very top end. So it can get really glassy, obviously. So I keep that, I kept it lower for all of those tracks. So hopefully you guys understand how this sounds and what it's capable of. It's a very versatile, covers a lot of Marshall ground pedal. I can safely say that it will work quite well as a standalone preamp because that's really what it is. But it's also been voiced because of that switch to work really well at the front end of amplifiers. So there's a lot going on with this pedal. If you've got any other questions about it, definitely go to the Sinvertek site and check things out. And as always, I really appreciate you guys watching, and I will see you on the next one.